Good morning, everyone. Pete Pardo here from Sea of Tranquility. Welcome to another edition of Ranking the Albums today in the co-captain's chair. Once again, Mr. Rich Catino for what seems like our Sunday brunch with Rich and Pete, right?
Morning, guys. What's up?
So today, been a long time coming. Seems like I'm doing a lot of these long time coming shows lately. I did Accept the other day, Alcatraz the other day. So Overkill. Ranking the albums. Rich and I made an executive decision, though, when we were putting the show together, is like, they have a lot of albums. And, rather than do like a 2-hour show trying to figure out 19 albums and where they fit, we decided to pick our 10 favorites. All right. So we're going to kind of condense this just a little bit. And I think Rich and I, as we're going through this show, we'll explain kind of why this made a little bit more sense. And we were talking right before we went. Go ahead.
I thought there were 20, but there's not, because if you count Overkill, it's 20. So 19 regular studio, 20 with Overkill.
Yeah, so we're going to cover half that. And for those of you who are like big Overkill fans, I mean, I think this is a perfect example of one of those legacy bands that jumped out of the gate in the 80s, really killed it.
Yeah.
Struggled like everybody else did in the 90s and the early 2000s. And then the last 20 years have really like kicked it into high gear once again, and arguably releasing some of the strongest albums of their career. I mean, Overkill and Testament, we can go on and on about some of these long-standing bands that are just putting out great music in the last, since the 2000s started. And I think Overkill definitely is one of the leaders of that. So we decided to do 10. And I think, again, we haven't compared lists, so I have no idea what Rich has picked, but I would say my list is pretty chock full of a lot of their history here, but it's going to lean on the beginning and the end quite a bit. So we'll see kind of how it unfolds.
And Overkill and Testament were the two bands that were putting out new music in the 90s and the early 2000s when everybody was gone, pretty much, almost everybody.
Yeah, or doing something different than what they know, trying to fit in with the grunge and alternative scene, right? And Overkill never did that. Testament never did that. In fact, Testament, and we'll get into Testament at a later time, but Testament arguably went even more extreme for a while. It's like, in other words, we're not gonna like go and do alternative metal or do grunge. We're gonna take thrash and go into like almost the death metal direction, which is what they did. So a lot of kudos to both of these bands for continuing the fight all throughout the last couple decades.
But Overkill did, when I was going back and listening to all these albums, man, the 19 albums. So from Killing Kind up to Mortalis, they did have some influence from what was happening in America, though.
Yes.
As I was listening to it, there's a lot of like those guitar harmonics in some of the songs, the gruffer vocals, the breakdowns, the rhythms, missing solos here and there. So they did have some influence on some of those albums. So still thrashy too, but they did have a lot of that modern American Machine Head, Pantera, Gojira type of influence.
You hit the nail on the head. I was just going to mention both of those bands. There's kind of this groove metal thing that permeated Overkill's music, probably starting in the mid 90s. I mean, come on, Pantera was huge at the time, right? How could you not be influenced by those guys?
Right. Yeah. With the Killing Kind, they started with that and from the Underground and Below, those two albums.
Yeah. Absolutely. Right. Yep. So let's kick this off. So Rich is going to start us off with his number 10.
All right. So go with 2000's Bloodletting. This is the last one. I think is the last one. What was the change here? So this is the one with Dave Linscott for the first time. So after Joe Camo and Sebastian Marino left, which was the previous album, right? Yeah. So this is the first one with Dave, and this is the show that they recorded in New Jersey, in Asbury Park. Were you at that show, that DVD that they recorded?
No.
Wrecking Everything in Asbury Park. So they recorded that live album from this album. So this one has Thunderhead, Believe Me, which they did those at the show, if I'm correct. What I'm Missing, Death Comes Out to Play, Let It Burn, I Hurricane. Those first 6 I usually go back to. So I picked this one because I think this is the best out of that batch that we're talking about in the middle of the 90s into the 2000s. So you have Killing Kind from the Underground and Below and Necro Shine before this, and then Killbox, Relics, and Mortalis afterwards. So this got back, I thought, more of their thrashy roots. And it still has a little bit more of that modern stuff going on in it as well, but more thrashy, I think, and a little bit of a better production.
Yeah.
So that's why I put this in my 10.
And I will say, I don't think there's any bad Overkill albums. I think there's a group of them, and you just named most of them, that are kind of a little subpar, right? I mean, they're not bad.
Yeah, right. Like I find it like the tail end of some of these albums, when I listen to them, they're not as memorable as the other albums. So like maybe Blown Away, My Name is Pain, Can't Kill a Dead Man. It's okay. So I think this happens with several of those albums within that decade. 13 years at the decade, or 13 years. It's 96 to 2007.
Yeah.
So
let's be frank. A lot of these albums, and they're not the only band who was doing it. Some of these albums are just too long, too many songs. I mean, we're talking about a time period when most bands were like, all right, we can put almost 80 minutes of music on a new CD, and let's do 15 songs. And I mean,
This says 10. It's enough.
And that's not bad. Yeah, that's 10 is not bad. Yeah. But also at that time period, these guys were their songs were starting to go 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 minutes.
Right.
And that was like the norm. I mean, that started like in the early 90s, and all of a sudden they're doing like this "And Justice for All," by Metallica, epic length songs, and that became the norm for them for quite a while. Well,
they especially did that on Ironbound too.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The green, the black, and the title track.
Yeah, yeah.
Not such a great album cover though.
No.
One of my least favorite.
Yeah.
So enjoy the music, but not a good album cover.
No. They had some great album covers and some not so great album covers. But.
Yes, exactly.
All right, my number 10, Rich, if you could hold it up, from 1993, I Hear Black. So and that's not a great album cover either, but it's not terrible.
It's not bad.
Yeah, it's all right.
I kind of enjoy it.
After starting off the 90s with the really great Horoscope album, I Hear Black for me is probably the only other 90s album from them that I like pretty much from start to finish. It's pretty solid record. The title track and like Spiritual Void are really heavy with lots of groove. And by lots of groove, I mean kind of like there's like this Pantera groove thing lurking in a lot of this album here. And again, 93, right? Pantera, fairly big at the time, right? So I don't doubt that, Overkill were like, oh, that stuff is selling really well, even though Pantera were probably influenced by Overkill. Here we've got Overkill arguably taking a look at what they were doing and saying, all right, let's inject some of that into our music a little bit. Because I hear a lot of Pantera on this album. What else? World of Hurt, lots of mid-pace.
I always like that.
Riffs. Yeah, right, Dreaming and Colombians, just really dense. I find a lot of this album pretty dense. Feed My Head, I mentioned And Justice for All before. Feed My Head sounds like a leftover from the And Justice for All sessions, especially the guitar sound.
Never like that.
Weight of the World is a classic Overkill style thrasher. You got ravenous blitz vocal. Alex Perialis is doing the production on this album. He worked with them quite a bit early part of the career. We talk a lot about, I know Martin Popoff and I talk about it all the time. Like, Andy Sneap is like that guy today in like the modern age, who Andy produces a lot of metal bands and a lot of like, you talk about, Saxon and Accept and Judas Priest. He's got that sound. When he works with you on an album, the album's going to sound like this. Well, Alex back in the day was working with a lot of the thrash bands, and all those albums had that sound. Yeah. Great sound. I mean, at the time, I thought Alex was like one of the best producers around. I'm like, oh, Alex produced that album. This is going to be great, right? So it's a good sounding album. I think it's a little more dense and serious compared to the albums that came before it. But I think for me, it's the last one of that era. And after that, the albums for me kind of got a little spotty. But and it's not a top to bottom great album, but I think it's got enough really strong tracks. So that made my top 10.
Okay, it's very Sabbathy.
Yes.
You can say you can call it I Hear Black Sabbath.
And let's not kid ourselves. Overkill on most of their albums would include like a slow doomy number. And in fact, we're going to get to it in a little bit. There's another album, an earlier album, that even goes one step further there. And I think if Overkill wanted to, they could be a killer doom band, because they've done that on occasion throughout their career. And when they do, it's like, whoa.
Well, Dee does that with the Bronx Casket Company.
Exactly. Yep. So maybe that's where that's coming from. Because I mean, they do the punk thing from time to time. There's a lot of punk influence to their music.
Right.
Obviously, they're a thrash band, but man, when they do like this kind of doomy thing, it's like you stop and you listen to like, holy crap! It's like, could you imagine if Overkill did an entire record like that? Like literally an entire record, not just a couple songs.
Right.
So So
when I was going back and listening to the albums, they did it twice. I noted from pre I Hear Black on 2 of the albums. I don't know if you noticed that. There's 2 songs on 2 albums. So maybe we'll talk about that shortly.
Oh yeah, because I have it in my notes. Yeah, we're definitely gonna talk about it. All right, number 9, back to you.
Number 9, The Electric Age from 2012. So that's the second one with Ironbound before it in 2010. So this is, I think, when they got out of, well, they did, not I think they did. They got out of that groove metal kind of hole that they were in, the rabbit hole. And they just totally broke out of it and they just went full on thrash. So this is not as, the songs are not as like long and epic, I would say, as like Ironbound, like the Green and the Black and the song Ironbound. But Come and Get It, the opener, is such a slammer. It's got those peaks and valleys in it. So that's really, they always have great openers.
I was just gonna say they have so many of them.
Almost every album. I think the one on this album is not the greatest opener, Thunderhead. It's okay, but yeah, they got great openers always. So this has the single Electric Rattlesnake. Wish You Were Dead is really cool. Black Days is a slower type of a song, which has a great hook to it as well and a great riff. Drop the Hammer Down, 20th Century Man, Old Wounds, New Scars, All Over But the Shouting. I love that riff in that too. Yeah, this is crushing pretty much from beginning to end. A great follow-up to Ironbound.
Yeah, I mean, they've had a lot of really strong albums over the last like 10, 15 years.
Yeah, and very cool album cover too.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's classic Overkill album cover right there.
What a great statement that is.
Yep.
Yeah. And this is with, let's see, this is after Derek's been in the band for a while. I mean, I'm sorry, Dave Linsk, and Derek has been in the band as well for a little while. Derek Taylor, second guitar player.
I can't keep up with their lineup changes, man. It's like over the years, they have had so many changes.
I know. This is from, let's see, from, I want to say Mortalis from 2007. Yeah, 2007. So this is, yeah, that's when it was Dave Linsk and Derek Taylor on guitars, 2 of them, going forward. So that's been the lineup since then, guitar player wise.
Cool. Yeah, it's a solid one. Solid one.
Yeah.
All right, my number 9, if you could hold it up, White Devil Armory from 2014.
All right.
Another pretty cool album cover, I think, right?
Yes, very cool.
Yeah, I mean, it's just, I can't overstate enough how relevant Overkill are to the heavy metal scene still. I mean, that album, again, it's 6 years old already, but it's just another one of the many, and like the one Rich just talked about, where these guys, here they are, they've been, a band for, 35 years, and they're still writing killer albums. I mean, you got Armorist, again, talk about those opening tracks that just like blow you away. Fast and Furious. You got Down to the Bone, which has some amazing drum work from Ron Lipnicki, killer player.
Yeah, this is the second one with him, I think. I think it's the second album with him.
Yeah, and he is just,
or maybe the third one actually. Maybe he was on. I think he was on Ironbound too. Let me see. Yeah, he was on Ironbound. It's his third one with Rob.
Third already. Okay, all right. Great drum performance throughout the whole album. Love the production on this one again. And again, these guys have been producing themselves.
I'm sorry, the fourth one. He was also on Immortalis from 2007.
Okay, so he had been in the band for a while then. All right, yeah, but I mean, he really makes a statement on this album, I think.
Yes, he does.
And I love the production on all these albums. I think these guys really, they started after they worked with, Alex for quite a while. They started producing their own albums, but they were co-producing with him. So I think they really learned a lot. And now they handle their own production. These albums sound great, all of them.
Yeah, the newer ones have a nice crunch and a nice snap to them.
Absolutely. Yep. You got Pig is another great breakneck paced face melter on there. Bitter Pill. Okay, so we talked about it before. So Bitter Pill is this album's mid-pace kind of doom-laden like thumper, so to speak, right?
Great song.
Yeah.
And I like the changes in it too. It's got some cool changes.
Absolutely.
Changes the tempo a couple times. Yep.
Yep. Big time. Yep. What else? Where There's Smoke is classic Overkill style thrash.
Yeah.
I just think it's a really strong album, top to bottom. It's, there are some people who are like, well, Overkill just keeps putting out a lot of these albums. They kind of sound the same. I don't really agree with that. I think that these albums all are kind of unique. Yes, they sound like Overkill, but Overkill always adds enough variety on their albums. And no, and we're going to talk about it in a little bit, but their latest album, which has so much variety on it. It's like, they could release an album where every single song is just these speed of life thrash attacks, but they never have done that. And like, we mentioned, they do the kind of doomy thing. Sometimes they do a little punk thing. Sometimes they do these kind of like more epic thing. I mean, it's like they do it all, really.
But I noticed too, the last 5 albums, the drums carry the songs a lot too, not just the riffs.
Yeah.
They're really carrying the song in the beginning of the song as well, not just the riff itself.
And the drums are nice and prominent in the mix, which is kind of nice. They're not overpowering, but it's like there's some thrash bands where it's all guitar, and I'm a guitar player. I love that, but I always like what Overkill's music is, and the bass too. Dee Dee's bass is really up front of the mix. I was going to say
also, well, no, the sound I think changed during the 90s and the early 2000s. His bass, it was really lost in the mix, and that distinctive sound wasn't there. But starting with Ironbound in 2010, that's where it came back, and you could really hear it.
Came back because it's like early on, you heard him all the time. Yeah, exactly.
Right. Yeah, he's got a very distinctive bass sound.
Yeah. It's just so funny how we constantly go back to the 90s and all the questionable things that were going on with the style of music some of these bands were doing, the way they were producing their albums, right? Lack of guitar solos. You can't hear the bass. It's like the 90s is like this weird kind of vacuum for a lot of these classic metal bands, like just trying to figure it out. Like, how do we still do things the same way? Do we try to kind of fit in? Do we, reinvent ourselves? And then, all these years later, we look back and we're like, yeah, what was kind of going on there, right? So
that's why I was saying before, those albums, it's still kind of thrashy, but there's a lot of grooves going on, a lot of those harmonic guitar things going on in the songs.
Yeah,
the gruff vocals, the backing vocals from Dee Dee sometimes thrown in. So it's a mixed bag.
Yeah, it is. There's good stuff on all of them, but I think, we know which are the classic sounding Overkill albums, right? There's definitely can separate them, I think.
Yeah, depending on the album, I could put 2 or 3 songs in a playlist all the time from probably almost every album. Almost. There's a couple that I really don't go back to, but
right.
We'll find that out later.
Yep.
All right. So next, talking about distinctive bass sound, I think you really hear on this album, WFO.
Yeah.
Really like this one. This is from '94. This is right after I Hear Black. So this is the last one, I think, right? With 2 guitar players that were there since Horoscope, right?
I believe so, yeah, because it was right around that time they started doing a lot of changes.
Yeah, so this is Merritt Gant and Rob Canavino on this album. So I think this is the last one. Yes, with those 2 guys. So I love the opener where it hurts, how that bass and the drums throbs and it builds up and then it kicks you right in the ass. That's a great opener. Fast Junkie was the single. I think They Eat Their Young is great.
That's a cool tune.
You know that song?
Yeah.
Very cool. I've never heard him play it live though. What's Your Problem is okay. Under One, Supersonic Hate is a thrasher. You got the Rip instrumental, which is dedicated to Chris Oliva. Up to Zero is okay. Bastard Nation's very cool, and Gasoline Dream. I love the way that builds up and punches you. And then it slows down and gets a little Sabbathy too. So yeah, 11 songs on this album. Really like this one.
Love the song titles too.
Yeah. What's Your Problem? The Weight, the new High and Lows is really good too with that intro. Yeah. Yep.
And a cool album cover once again.
Yeah, pretty cool.
And we got to give props to that logo. I always dug their logo.
Oh, it's great. It stands out so much.
And they stayed true to it all these years.
I love it. Yep. Yeah.
All right. Number 8 for me, going to go to 2017's The Grinding Wheel. Nice. As Rich mentioned before, a lot of long songs on here. But again, it's packed with power, self-produced, sounding great. Mean Green Killing Machine. great kickoff track. I mean, it's just, it's epic. It's thrashy. You got Goddamn Trouble is really fast and manic, has that little bit of a punk edge because these guys always embrace their punk side at times. You got Our Finest Hour, razor sharp riffs, acrobatic drumming. Shine On, total face melter. Blitz screaming his ass off, right?
Was that one of the videos, I want to say?
Shine On, yes, yeah. They did a lot of videos in the latter part of their career.
Our Finest Hour, and then they did a lyric video for Mean Green Killing Machine, which I love.
Yeah,
what a great opener.
Yeah, that's a great song. And again, another big long one, right? I mean, these guys are like, all right, we don't have an issue with doing a 6 to 8 minute to start off an album, right? Why not, right? No big deal. Let's all go to Hades is a lot of fun.
Yeah,
a lot of groove in that. I don't know. It's just, and I think, it's amazing how Blitz still sounds so great. I mean, this is a band that's been around a long time, a ton of touring. He's a smoker. He's probably a drinker too, or at least he used to be. And he still sounds freaking great.
He still has that snarl and that, that unique tone that he has in his voice. It's great. He's definitely the most unique frontman and one of the best ones, I think, my favorites in thrash.
Yeah, because he's like the complete package. And there's some people might say, oh, but he doesn't have like a traditional singing voice, but that's what makes him so cool, right? He's got, back in the early days, I mean, he sang like without that kind of snarly, growly thing that he does.
Like taking over. He's a great singer on that album.
Oh yeah, even the first album too, Feel the Fire. But this is his style now. He's got that kind of that raspy thing that he's got, and he just, nobody sounds like him. And I think he's so unique, and he is a great frontman. I mean, live, he must sweat off like 10 pounds every show.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just a madman up there. Very, very cool.
Yeah. And you can leave that album up because that's going to be my next one.
Gotcha. Overkill still has it, folks. I mean, that's kind of what we're talking about here. I mean, this is,
and I'll throw in the Wheel and the title track as well as two of my favorites too. I love the way it closes out. Two slammers, the way to close out that album. Opens with Mean Green Killing Machine and closes with the Wheel and the Grinding Wheel. Killer beginning and end.
Absolutely.
Very solid. And that's the last one.
If you buy the Digipack version as a bonus, you get their remake of Thin Lizzy's Emerald. Not every band would want to tackle that, right? And they do a good job of it.
And this is the last one with Ron playing drums.
Yes, I believe so. Yep.
So Jason Bittner comes in afterwards. Yeah, so that's a great one. Very, very solid representation of current Overkill. If you want a little bit more of their variety in their songs, you pick this album, because Electric Age and White Devil Armory are very thrashy, I think. They're varied too, but this one I think shows a little bit more variety, but it's still got the thrashy elements to it.
Yep.
In a lot of the songs. And they're very catchy too. The songs are very catchy on this album.
Yeah, I mean, that's always been the great thing about Overkill, though. Their music is pretty accessible for as heavy as it is and as manic as it can be. It's they know how to write a good chorus. I mean, they really do.
Yeah. And there's always melody in it, always. Between the guitars and the bass or the vocals or the hook, whatever it is, there's always melody found in their songs.
Yep, exactly. All right, my number 7, going to go to 2010, Ironbound. Freaking love this album.
Okay.
And how cool the album cover is that, and then,
how strong is that artistically?
Amazing.
Killer.
Amazing.
They really rebounded on the artwork side from the 2000s forward, 2010 forward.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. Again, 10 tracks on here, but most of them are pushing 6, 7, 8 minutes long.
I'm looking at it right now. Green and Black is 8 minutes.
Yep.
Great opener. Ironbound 6.5. The Goal Is Your Soul is over 6 minutes.
Yep.
Killing for a Living is over 6 minutes, and The Head and the Heart and In Vain are both over 5.
Yep. Yeah, there's no quick little ditties on here. Rich just mentioned some of the great songs on here. The Green, the Black, awesome. Again, that's the first song on the album. They grab you by the jugular with the first song on almost every single one of these albums.
And it's an 8-minute journey. It's great.
It is. Yeah, it never gets old, never gets boring, not at all.
Right.
Title track just crushes. You got the Bring Me the Night, which just absolutely steamrolls. The mid-paced The Goal Is Your Soul, Endless War, Killing for a Living. It's just a really great album. I mean, you know, I think it's funny because I think for me, this is the album, you know, and the few that come before it are very, very good as well. But I think this is the album for me that I really stopped and said, holy shit, Overkill is like back and better than ever. I mean, it never went away. What's that?
Yeah, but the production's better there too. That's the thing I was saying before.
Absolutely.
Production got so much better.
Yeah. Yeah. So I dig this a lot, and you know, any given day might even be a little higher, but hey, it's number 7 in their entire, you know, almost 20 album discography. That's pretty damn good.
Well, you could have left that up because that's my next one. All the same things you said. I piggyback you on everything there. And the Green and the Black, the title track, Endless War. I could put any one of these. The SRC. I could put any one of these in a playlist from time to time, especially the 2 openers, Green and Black and Ironbound.
And I haven't seen them live in a couple of years. Are they still playing some stuff from this album? Because they were throughout the 2010s.
Yeah. It's usually either Ironbound or Bring Me the Night.
Okay.
Usually, because now with so many albums, I guess it's tough to play so many from each album. So you usually get like 1 or 2 from the newer albums with the handful of classics, you know, a bunch of the classics. Yeah. Not too much from that middle period, though. They kind of dropped the songs from Killing Kind all the way up to Immortalis. I don't think I've heard any of them in the set list in many years, maybe. Wow. Maybe It Lives once in a while. Long Time Dying maybe once in a while. Necro Shine once in a while. But for a long time now, I haven't heard any of those.
It's got to be hard. I mean, with so many albums and they tour regularly, right? It's like you can't fit everything in. And you know, you have to play a good selection from those first 4 or 5 albums. I mean, you can't get around that, right?
Right, and you can't ignore the current lineup and the current albums as well.
Right. So, and they're also not playing 3-hour sets. So I mean, it's like you.
Right.
What are you gonna do?
So the middle period gets a little bit ignored now.
Yeah. All right, my number 6. I'm gonna go to the most recent album, The Wings of War. Man, this is great. Okay. This is great. And just so everybody can see what the guys are looking like these days, that's, I mean, if you're like an old school Overkill fan and you have not heard their new one or the last couple that Rich and I have talked about, man, you are missing out, people.
Yeah.
This was a top 10 release of the year in 2019 for me. It's easily my favorite of the post 2000 releases. So many great songs. I mean, to me, based on what we've seen from this band in the last bunch of years, they are easily my favorite, like modern thrash modern thrash.
Yes.
I think, you know, and Testament right behind them. I just think that they're releasing such consistently great albums, and there's no signs of them slowing down. And this is just amazing. I mean, you know, so many greats. Last Man Standing, again, another kickoff track.
What a great opener.
Absolutely rages. The drums and guitars just crushing all over the place, and Blitz just like spewing his venom as only he can, right? Just great. Believe in the Fight has become one of my favorite Overkill songs.
Yes, love that too. It's another.
I mean, having that breakdown in the middle of that song. It's like all of a sudden things just completely change. They go into this like 2-minute long breakdown, and Bobby is it's just so good, so good. What else we got here? Batshit Crazy is a great song.
Crazy. I was just going to say that one.
Distortion, Head of a Pin. Even I'm sure you love it. Welcome to the Garden State. I mean, that's all about New Jersey, right?
That's all about where I'm from. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So
you might as well just throw in there. We don't care what you say. Fuck you.
Right? Exactly. And I love like the end of the song. They kind of go into that little harmony from like Bruce Springsteen, right? It's just like it's just really genius, right? And I'm a New York guy, right? So there's oftentimes a lot of competition between New Yorkers and New Jersey folks, but I can listen to that and say, all right, that's kind of cool. That's, you know, it's really witty and really fun, and that's kind of like Overkill completely doing like their punk thing, and it really works.
Yes.
So great album, great production. It sounds massive, and it's infectious. It's so much fun.
Another album where the drums just drive those songs.
Yeah.
Just drives it like crazy.
Yep, big time. All right, the top 5. Here we go.
Top 5. Starting with 88's Under the Influence. This might be my favorite cover.
It's a great cover.
Very cool.
It's a
I
great
love
cover.
this. Is so cool, right?
Yep.
This is like a story. They could do a whole comic book revolving around this, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we were talking about slower Overkill songs before. So you have that one on here with Drunken Wisdom.
Yep.
First time they did something slow, but I don't like it. I don't think it works actually. Probably it is my least favorite on the album.
Yeah, I think they perfected that sound a little more on the next album.
Yes. But the rest of it, Shred, one of the best openers, just right out the gate, it's killing you with those leads and everything. Never Say Never is cool as a second one, mid-paced. Hello from the Gutter was the single. Mad Gone World is interesting. Brain Fade. Head First is a good Pit song. I don't know why they never played it. I've never heard it live, but it's good for the Pit. And then Overkill 3, Under the Influence, is on here too. It's the third part of the Overkill story. Yeah. But the only thing about this album is the mix. Like Dee Dee's bass is really prominent in this, but the overall mix of it's very tingy and very trebly, and it's not full at all. This could definitely use a remix.
It's still a heavy as hell album though.
It is, and it shows actually those changes that they do in their music too.
Yeah.
Be more prominent later. The tempo changes, riff changes. It switches gears a lot through some of these songs, which I also like.
The production of that album kind of reminds me in a weird way because it's really heavy, but it's like kind of murky, kind of like Black Sabbath's Born Again. It's like it kind of
really.
But in a weird way. They're both really heavy, but I think most people listen to them and say, "I wish the production was a little bit different," right? But it's still, I still think Under the Influence is one of their heaviest albums ever. I mean, it's massively heavy. But yeah, I agree with you. Could you imagine if it had more of a production like Horoscope or Taking Over?
Yeah, even the Years of Decay has a nice balance too to the production.
Yep. Yeah, I will say the top 5 here is pretty difficult because all my top 5 are amazing albums. So I had a hard time with, kind of how to rank these. And I grew up with Overkill. So it's like a lot of the ones that I'm going to be talking about are like, pretty fond of, right? So I was like, all right, we'll figure it out. I'm going to go with the Years of Decay as my number 5. Again, could any other time rank a little higher. It's a great album. It's the last with Bobby Gustafson on guitar, who I always really loved. And what's amazing is that, their first bunch of albums was just him.
Yeah.
And after he left, they had to fill the gap with 2 guys going forward. Right. So, but it's easily one of their early classics. Time to Kill, so potent right out of the gate. Again, I can't stress enough how killer all of their opening tracks are on all these albums.
I saw them do that once in New Jersey.
Oh, really?
Never saw them do it again. I forgot what the name of the club was. Down on 35, I want to say it was a club. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it was a small little club. And there was barely anybody there. I think it was in the 90s when I saw them. And they opened up with that song. It was awesome.
So you've probably seen them a ton of times because, I mean, they're practically from your backyard, right?
They are, pretty much. They're down South Jersey.
Yeah.
I've probably seen them 35 times.
Wow, that's a lot. Yeah, it's way
maybe,
more
probably.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there. Definitely over 25. So it's got almost like 35 times.
That's a lot. Yeah, no, I haven't seen them nearly that many times, but every time I have seen them, they're always really great. I mean, they used to play at the old Birch Hill all the time. I've seen them numerous times at what's the other place down in right over the bridge? Oh man.
Starland Ballroom.
Starland Ballroom. Yes. I've seen them numerous times there because they always play there. And I've seen them on the bigger package tours and quite a bit. I used to go see them in the 80s at out in Bayshore, Long Island at Sundance. They used to play at Sundance all the time.
Did you ever get to see them at Lemoore at the time?
I'm pretty sure I have. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Back in the day, I used to go to Sundance more. I was a regular at Sundance like every weekend. Okay. I always went there because I was living out in Long Island for a while. So like in the summer times when all the bands toured and played, I was living out in Long Island in the summers, and I would go. That's where I lived. I was at Sundance all the time. So like Anthrax and Overkill and Testament and all the thrash bands were playing like every weekend. Metal Church, they were always playing there. So. But back to this, great vocals from Blitz on this entire album. Elimination, fast and catchy. You got the big riffs of Nothing to Die. Here you got that slower, doomier Playing with Spiders, Skull Crusher.
Right.
I mean, that's so massively heavy. I mean, that could be like a Black Sabbath or a Trouble song.
That's where they got it right. They didn't, Drunken Wisdom didn't work, but that worked.
That really works. I mean, it's slow and grinding and just, man, those riffs are just absolutely killer. You got the mid-placed Who Tends the Fire also has kind of doom elements. The title track is also kind of doomy. So you got a lot of mid-paced stuff on here that could be, you could consider pretty close to doom. But great top to bottom, great album, great vocals on Blitz on the whole album. And come on, that album cover.
Another great statement, artistically, visually, everything.
Yeah, that's pretty damn cool. It's almost like this could be like something sitting on top of one of the mountains on Kong Skull Island or something like that.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Pretty cool. So, all right, back to you for number 4.
All right, going to the classic debut, Feel the Fire. I think there's another one that could probably use a little bit of a remix, right?
Yeah.
But it's
Great,
the first
great
album,
songs,
obviously. It's great. But it's from 85, so it's understood, but the songs are still great. Raise the Dead, Rotten to the Core was a single. They used to play that on WSOU all the time.
Oh, really?
Dean Hall's Power Radio. Did you ever get that or no? You weren't in the area?
It's a little too far for me, yeah.
Esso used to play the shit out of that song.
But I've heard many people talk about it over the years.
Yeah. Hammerhead, they always play that live still
from
time to time. What a great song. The title track is great. I love the way Dee Dee's bass kicks that off. Blood and Iron, I've heard them do that a couple times on tour. Kill a Command, the Overkill song is great. I mean, yeah, this is a classic. There's nothing bad on this album. Even Sonic Producer's cool, the cover song.
Yeah.
Who did that originally again?
Oh, Jesus. I don't even remember.
It was a punk band, right?
Yeah. God. Who was that?
So they closed out the album with Sonic Producer, which is fine. Works. But yeah, it's cool. This is a Megaforce album. This is they were on Megaforce this time. That's what they got signed to.
Yep. I bought that the day, like as soon as it came out.
Yeah, I still have my vinyl. Still have it.
Wow, from the old days. Yeah, I don't have any of my old vinyl.
Yeah. Only thing I wish I had, and I don't think I ever had it, was the Power in Black EP. The one that came before this with the black album cover.
Yep.
That's the only one I never had.
God, going back a ways. Jesus.
Right?
All right. My number 4, 1991's Horoscope. Great album. Great album. I know a lot of people, this is their favorite Overkill album. And I couldn't argue that at all. So here, Bobby's out. Bobby Gustafson's out. They replace him with Merritt Gant and Ron Canavino. So
right.
You guys. Yep, there they all are.
2 guitar
and, they don't miss a beat.
Lineup. Yeah.
They don't miss a beat. You got Coma. Again, another ass kicker to start off the album. You got Infectious. Blood Money is a complete headbanger. The title track, massive freaking doom, right? I mean, that's got some sick riffing going on in there.
Yeah.
Easily one of my favorite Overkill songs. It's so good. You got the amazing remake of Frankenstein by the Edgar Winter Group.
Killer cover. What a killer cover.
Right? Absolutely.
What a great instrumental.
Oh, yeah. Live Young, Die Free. I mean, Bare Bones. I mean, so many great songs on here. Great production. Like I said, I would not argue if a bunch of people said this is easily their favorite, because it's absolutely amazing. Absolutely amazing.
Well, that's my next choice. So all the same things you said. I love Infectious and Coma. And the whole album just slams. It's so great. Such a great balance between the melody and the thrash and the twin guitar attack. I think Solitude is a great ballad to close out the album. Works very well. Great singing from Blitz. Nice Day for a Funeral is so cool. Nice and kind of doomy a little bit.
Yep.
But it still moves along at a good pace. I really like that. Bare Bones, I love the piano beginning. Dun, 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 dun. That's a great opening. And then it just kills you with the riffs.
Oh, yeah.
And Coma and Infectious, they still play live a lot. Same thing with Thanks for Nothing and Horoscope. Those songs all come back a lot from time to time.
You can't ignore it, right? The band can't.
I've seen them do New Machine as well.
Oh, you have? Okay.
Seen him do that. I think I saw him do Bare Bones once or twice. I think Blood Money I got once. I think the only thing I've never seen was Solitude and Live Young, Die Free. I've even got New Machine too, because they did that on the WF tour.
Gotcha.
New Machine, I want to say.
Well, if you've seen him 35 times or so, you probably have at one point or another heard a lot of these songs, right?
Yeah, I got lucky.
It's like me with Dream Theater. I've seen Dream Theater probably close to 30 times. And it's like, I think I've seen them play almost every song they've ever written and recorded live at least once, right?
And they're always good about mixing it up every tour too. Like half the set list is totally different.
Yeah.
So you'll always get something from an album that you haven't heard before.
Yeah, exactly. I love when bands do that. Because, so many bands right now, they go out and tour and they play basically 90% the same set list year after year after year. And you know what? I don't think that's the band's fault. I think that's the fans' fault, because the fans won't accept anything other than those mandatory songs, right?
Like Iron Maiden. I hate the way they do that.
I mean, Maiden wants to play like the more lesser known stuff, but you get Maiden fans only want to hear, the stuff from the first 5 albums.
I don't know if it's the fans or if it's the band. I can't figure it out. Because even when they do their tours, like the Legacy of the Beast or Somewhere Back in Time or the Seventh Son that they did, they're always recycling the same songs from the previous tour, even if it's a retro tour. So they're really not digging out too many deep cuts every time they try and do that again. It's only 1 or 2 songs maybe.
But at least Maiden does every couple of tours. They'll do a tour where they're playing like, the majority of a new album and stuff from the previous album and a handful of classics. But the fans hate when they do that, because they're like, oh, I don't want to hear that whole album. I don't know. It's a really weird thing here in the States when bands tour now. It's like, the bands who really want, because I remember like back when Dio and Tony and Geezer and Vinny got back together and they did that, reunion and called it, Heaven and Hell. I mean, I remember like Tony and Geezer saying how happy they were to be going and playing like the stuff from, Mob Rules and Heaven and Hell and Dehumanizer again, because they're so tired of playing Paranoid, Iron Man, War Pigs, and all the same old, and I know. It's like when I talked to Steve Morse from Deep Purple a couple months ago, he was telling me how he loves when they inject some stuff into the set list that they don't get to play that often, because they have to play those mandatory 8, 9, 10 tracks like all the time, because otherwise the fans are not going to want to go. So I don't know. It's just weird here. It's not like in Europe where you're a band, or in Japan where you can be a metal band, a hard rock band, and you can play whatever the hell you want in the set and the audience will lap it up, right? It doesn't work that way here. Yeah.
Overkill is always good for putting back in 2 or 3 or 4 songs maybe that they didn't do the last time.
Yeah, which is good. I commend bands who do that. I really do.
Yeah. Yep.
All right, my number 3, going to go back to the beginning, Feel the Fire from 1985. I mean, great songs. I agree with you. Probably could use some kind of remix or something on this, right?
Yeah, a little remaster.
But it still sounds really good, I think. And I love, you listen to this and you hear Blitz sing so differently on those first 2 albums. And you really hear what a great voice he has, right?
Yes.
But classic stuff on here. I mean, Rotten to the Core, great. Hammerhead, great. Feel the Fire, Blood and Iron, Raise the Dead, Kill a Command. I remember like back in the day, a lot of people were talking about how great, drummer Rat Skates was. And, at the time, and, this lineup didn't stay together too long.
Yeah.
You had, some really prominent musicians here. You had Rat Skates, Dee Dee Verney, really unique sounding bass player, Bobby Gustafson, really great guitar player in the early thrash scene. You got, Bobby Blitz on vocals. And, these guys had like an early identity, and you knew all the names of the guys. You went to see them live and you were amazed at all of them. And I think, this classic early lineup didn't last nearly long enough. And then we've had a lot of lineup changes over the years. But I always go back, this was what, 85. So I was like 19 years old. And, I look back very fondly at this album. And
so do I. Absolutely.
Yeah, it's hard not to, right? And, there's the back there. So I remember buying this LP off the racks. I believe I bought it at Rock Fantasy in Middletown, New York, from Steve Keeler himself. So way back in the day.
Nice. All right, number 2.
Top 2.
All right. Years of Decay comes in at number 2 for me. all the same things you said. I love Birth of Tension, which starts side 2. Who Tends the Fire and Years of Decay. I love the variety between those two. And Evil Never Dies. What a great closer.
Yeah.
To follow up, it's a lot of melody and a lot of singing in those 2 previous songs. And then Evil Never Dies just crushes you. And I like the changes too in there with the clean guitars that they throw in as well. Little breaks in between the thrash.
Nice.
So
work.
excellent. Yeah. Great. One of my favorite openers and closers, Time to Kill opening and Evil Never Dies closing. So yeah, it's easily my number 2.
Yeah.
And Elimination, they always play live. That was the single, that was the video. Headbangers Ball played the shit out of that, remember?
That is true. Yeah, I remember that. Yep.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, Overkill were pretty regulars on Headbangers Ball for a while there. Yeah.
Yep. In Union We Stand, and
of course. Yeah.
In Union We Stand, Hello from the Gutter, Elimination. Even when Horoscope came out, they played the song Horoscope a lot, and Thanks for Nothing.
In Union We Stand is a great song. That was kind of like they're United by Priest, almost in a way.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Although much better in my opinion.
Oh yeah, I never liked.
I'm not a big United fan either.
Never did.
Oh, too funny.
Yeah.
All right. So my pick for number 2 is Under the Influence from '88. Again, like Rich said, love that album cover. This was original Megaforce record recording, produced by Alex Perialis. Okay, had that sound, right? Good sounding album. Shred. One of their best openers. Killer song. I totally shreds.
Yeah.
Hello from the Gutter is one of my favorite songs from them. Never Say Never is great. Overkill 3, Under the Influence, absolutely crushing. You got End of the Line. So many great tunes. And like
End of the Line came back as well. The last tour.
In the set list, really? Yeah.
It was the last tour, or the one before that they brought back End of the Line. Yeah.
Wow. Cool, pretty cool. That's a great song. Yeah, I agree with you. The production is not quite as kind of clean as the couple that came after it, but I still think it's a really heavy album. Heavy in a kind of murky way almost, but the songs are amazing, and that's what kind of counts. So, and yeah, it's I don't know. I'm trying to think. I've had Overkill T-shirts in the past, but I don't know if I ever had a T-shirt with this on it. I don't think so. I know I definitely had this. I definitely think I had one other one, but yeah, that probably is their greatest album cover.
Yeah, I love that. I need to get a shirt of that.
Yeah, it's probably very easy to find, right?
Right. Everybody's making reprints of everything now.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well, I think it's no secret what both of our number 1 is, right?
Right.
Here we go.
Yeah. Just the single alone, In Union We Stand, when I heard that. That was in '87 when that came out. I was hooked right there when I heard that. What a great anthem that is. It's still thrashy, but it's melodic. Great hook. Album cover, I like it. It's fun. It's not their best, but it's fun. Let's see. So what's on here? I mean, everything's on here. Everything on here is great.
Honestly, it's probably their worst album cover, or one of them.
I still like it in some way. I think it's fun. Wrecking Crew was like a single, I guess you could say. That was played on WSOU all the time. Use Your Head is fun. Very catchy. Fatal If Swallowed. Power Surge has been played a billion times live. Great. In Union We Stand is a great anthem, great hook. And I love Electro Violence. They finally brought that back too, a couple years ago. And when I interviewed Blitz, he was like, Rich, you and that damn song Electro Violence. He's like, you happy we finally brought it back? I was like, yeah. He said, you know what? He said, I have a new appreciation for it. I think it's pretty cool.
That's a great song. Yeah.
I love that.
I did last year.
I love Overkill too as well.
Overkill 2 is great. That's probably my favorite.
I think it's my favorite out of the 4 parts.
I agree with it. It's my favorite too. Yeah, The Nightmare Continues. Oh, it's just amazing. It's so ominous and evil sounding, right?
Yes, the beginning is very ominous.
Yeah. I did last year. We did a Overkill Top 10 Song Show. Was it last year or 2019? I don't even remember. And I had to really stop myself from putting like the majority of this album in my top 10 because I literally could put every song on here in the top 10. There's 9 songs, right? And I could throw a couple others, but I had to really stop because I saw them on this tour a couple times, and back in the day, played a lot of this album live. D Night Across is just absolutely amazing. And again,
it is
another killer opening track.
You know what though? You know what about this album though too? You can't. Dee Dee's bass is a little muddy or muffled, or I don't know. You don't have that distinctive Dee Dee bass sound.
Some of the other albums, yeah.
It's a little bit. Just it throbs a lot to me.
Yeah,
it's not really that distinctive tone,
which was a characteristic of his. Yeah. But I mean, I echo everything Rich said. I mean, In Union We Stand is killer. Electroviolence, Overkill 2, The Nightmare Continues, Fear Is Named, Fatal Is Swallowed, Love Can't Resist.
Yeah,
Power Surge, Building Up Power all around you. I mean, come on, it's just so amazing. And I remember, being a kid, 20 years old, now 22 years old, and 21 years old, to do my math. Going to see the band live and seeing them play all these songs, just like, and back then, I mean, in 88, 87, 88, I mean, I was completely into thrash.
So was I.
And that's mostly what I was listening to. So, and I loved Overkill, and they were so great live. And I still have a lot of fond memories of this period, and specifically this album. I mean, when I was putting my list together, I was like, all right, I know it's number one. That's like a foregone conclusion.
Yeah, that was easy.
How the rest is going to fall, that's a little dicey. So.
Yeah. And live Blitz always says Dee Dee power up whenever they do Power Search.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because he's got the bass that intros it,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's still my favorite as well.
Good stuff. Yeah.
Beginning to end. Yeah, beginning to end. Don't skip a track.
No reason to. Yeah, no reason to. So cool. So there you have it, everybody. Our 10 favorite Overkill albums. I don't know, Rich, you want to talk a little bit about the ones that we didn't talk about without, or why we didn't include some of the other ones?
Yeah. I was going to say, like, there's a few tracks that you can go back to, I think, from a lot of those albums that would be on a playlist. Like The Killing Kind from 96. Battle is a great opener. Still love that song. You like that one? You know that one?
Yeah.
It's a good one. And then Underground and Below from 97. It Lives, another crushing opener. And Long Time Dying is great. And The Rip and Tear, that's a good fun rocker. Let's see, what's after that one? Necro Shine, I like the way that builds up the beginning part, right?
Necro Shine is really good.
Like I said, these albums are definitely influenced by those modern elements too.
Yeah,
a lot of
you're not as consistent, I don't feel, like start to finish, as some of these other ones, and that's really what it comes down to. It's like, I think that early on, Overkill really knew what they were doing. And, a lot of these, I mean, let's face it, a lot of these classic metal bands struck gold early in the career and then struggled, and a handful of them have rediscovered the old magic once again, and that's kind of, Overkill is a perfect example of this. But solid albums all the way through, though. I mean, literally, there's not a stinker album in their catalog. I don't think there's any album that I completely dislike.
And I don't know. I'd have to say, for me, I don't like these two. Mortalis, and I really don't like Relics.
No, I don't mind them. I think they're okay.
Yeah.
Are they top-notch Overkill? No, I agree with you.
No.
Both have great album covers.
Yeah, you're right. My two least favorite track-wise have two of the better album covers from that period. Interesting point. Let's see, what was I at before? So Necro Shine, that's a cool opener. On a playlist. Revelation's cool. And Forked Tongue Kiss. Those three. Let's see. Bloodletting I talked about. Yeah, Killbox and Killbox is cool. I'd like Killbox. That's from 2003. Devil by the Tail. That's a good opener. Damned. Let's see what else is on here. No Lights, The One, it's okay. Unholy, I Rise are the two last songs. Those aren't too bad. I think those are the better ones out of those albums. But if I have to go to the two that I don't like, let's see, Killbox. What do you like? I mean, not Killbox, Relics. What do you like from that one?
Oh, God, I'm trying to remember the songs here. There's so many. Hold on.
Opens up with Within Your Eyes. I don't like that. Loaded Rack is Bats in the Belfry, But the rest of it, it's very unmemorable for me. And I hate Old School. That's another one of those punky kind of songs that they do.
Well, yeah, but I mean, they're into that kind of stuff, so that was not.
They are. That's the one that didn't work for me, but I just don't like the mix on this album, and I don't think the songs are very memorable.
Did you mention Bats in the Belfry? That's a cool tune.
Yeah, that's cool.
Within Your Eyes, you mentioned, that's really good. Play the Ace is decent. I don't know. It's not a terrible album. I just, it's just not one of their more memorable albums from this time.
Yeah. Same thing with Mortalis. That's got the 5th part to the Overkill saga, which is probably the best song I think on the album, and it has that melody from the other parts in the song, so that's cool. Devils in the Mist, it's okay as an opener.
Skull and Bones is pretty good. That's not bad. That's kind of wild sounding, and that's got
it's very Randy Blythe from Lamb of God.
Yep.
But Hell the rest of it I could do without. Like I said, not too memorable, and I think these albums suffer from the production, aside from those modern elements, a lot of grooves, a lot of gruff vocals as backing vocals from Dee Dee, sound samples and stuff that they add into some of these songs in the beginnings and mid through,
True.
So yeah, it's a very uneven period.
But they figured it out shortly thereafter.
They did when they did Ironbound in 2010.
Oh yeah. Ironbound's killer.
Yeah.
So there you have it, everybody. A nice hour-long discussion of some of the great albums of New Jersey's finest, Overkill. So in the comments below, feel free to give us your top 10 albums, your top 5. You want to rank the entire catalog? Go right ahead. Feel free to do that. Rich and I will be taking a look at the comments and hopefully remarking on some of your comments and your feedback. So I want to thank Rich for joining me on this humongous task here today. But as always, if it's a band you like, you enjoy re-listening to these albums yet again,
Yeah. That was a lot to listen to.
Yes.
19 albums.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like, like we talked about earlier, I think like probably 60 or 70% of I knew were going to be in my top 10. It's just a matter of what order, and then, all right, how do I finalize the bottom half? So that's when you really have to listen to all of those albums that you may not deem as an absolute classic and kind of figure out, all right, well, which ones do I kind of like a little bit more than the others, right? And then it became kind of easy, but you got to go and you got to listen to them all and like got to say, all right, well, that's not a bad album, but is it it top 10 worthy? Maybe not. Yeah.
And Martin made a good point the other day when you guys did your Accept one, how he said he listened to them like really quickly back to back because there's similarities between them because there's consistency with the newer albums. So I had to do that with Ironbound up to Wings of War because there's a lot of consistency but similarities, but they're still different.
Right.
So I listened to them the way he said it, just really quick back to back, the opening track or go to a second track or something and see how they kind of line up with each other and what I like better. And that's how I kind of figured out one of my favorites.
Yeah, that's generally what I do too. I go, because I know the easy thing is to just take like a week or two and just kind of listen to them casually. But I like to sit down in one session, even if the session takes me numerous hours, back to back, because it's like it's immediate, and you're not only listening to the album at hand, but you're also still thinking about the one you just listened to, right?
Right. Yeah,
it's kind of the only way to do it.
Yeah, when you have this many albums, and you have a couple different periods too. You have the 80s era, the 90s, early 2000s, and then 2000 going forward.
Yep. Yeah, exactly.
It's another issue. Yeah.
So, but we did it. So thanks again to Rich for helping out here today. Visit us on the web at www.seatranquility.org. We're on Facebook, we're on Twitter. Of course, we're here on YouTube all the damn time. Rich, want to give a couple plugs before I let you go?
Sure. I write for Metal Asylum, Brave Words Magazine, and the Metal Hall of Fame.
Very cool. And also stay tuned. Rich appearing on a future Monsters Den episode along with Chris Allo. We've got a couple things in store for you guys, so that's coming up over the next week or two. So stay tuned for that. And we'll be seeing Rich also on a couple other things that are being discussed. So stay tuned for that as well. And what do we got coming up? So tomorrow morning, Martin Popoff and I are going to rank the studio catalog, the solo albums of Mr. Robert Plant. Tuesday, got a couple shows. Oh, Monday night, the Hudson Valley Squares Monday night must see TV. That's coming up this Monday with a very special surprise guest. Stay tuned for that. Tuesday, Sydney Taylor from the Hudson Valley Squares and I will be giving our top 10 songs, our favorite songs of Black Label Society. Also on Tuesday, a special show with Jack Toledano and Craig Seibert. We're going to talk about our favorite songs that we like to listen to driving in the car. All right.
Oh, so nice.
Kind of fun, right?
Yeah.
And all sorts of other stuff happening. I'm going to be guesting on Guitar Hack this week, ranking the albums along with Martin Popoff and Guitar Hack for Led Zeppelin. So that's coming up later this week. Cool. Man, so much stuff on the calendar. I can't even keep track. So stay tuned for all that stuff and more. I'm Pete Pardo for Rich Catino. See you all later on. Enjoy the rest of your weekend.
See you later. Thanks, guys.